This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
It is hard to make that boat go as fast as you want to. The enemy, of course, is resistance of the water, as you have to displace the amount of water equal to the weight of men and equipment. But that very water is what supports you, and that very enemy is your friend. So is life. The very problems you must overcome also support you and make you stronger in overcoming them. George Yeoman Pocock. On a stormy night in November 1924, Tula Rantz went into labor in her cabin at the Gold and Ruby Mine. As she lay moaning in her bed, Harry set off for Bonner's Ferry, Idaho, 18 miles away on twisting mountain roads, to fetch a doctor. He promptly came to a washed-out bridge on the only road out of town. With help from some of the miners, he rebuilt the bridge, made it to Bonner's Ferry, and returned just in time for the doctor to deliver his first daughter, Rose. But it had taken all night. That was the last straw for Tula. She was done with the cabin, done with the mine, done with Idaho. A few weeks later, they packed up the Franklin, picked up Joe from the schoolhouse, drove to Seattle, and moved into the basement of Tula's parents' home on Alki Point. For the first time in a year, they all lived under one roof. It didn't go well. Tula, with yet another infant to tend to, was no happier in their cramped quarters in the basement than she had been in the cabin. Once again, Joe in particular seemed to be always underfoot. So when Harry got a job as a mechanic with the Hamahama Logging Company out on the Hood Canal, a half-day's journey west of Seattle by car and ferry, Joe had to leave too. Harry took his son, still 10, to live with a family named Schwartz, near the logging camp. By 1925, Harry had saved up a bit of money from the Hamahama job and used it to put a down payment on an auto repair and tire shop in Sequim, on the north side of the Olympic Peninsula. The shop was located right downtown on Washington Street, the main thoroughfare through town, squarely on the route of anyone traveling from Seattle to Port Angeles or farther out onto the peninsula. It seemed a good location, and it got Harry back to doing what he loved most, tinkering with cars. The whole family moved into a small apartment over the shop. Joe enrolled in the Sequim school. He spent his weekends helping his father work on cars, tinkering with carburetors and learning to vulcanize rubber, and partly out of eagerness to stay out of Tula's way upstairs. When the mayor of Sequim smashed up Harry's Franklin while ogling a passing girl, breaking its wooden frame, he bought Harry a newer model, and Harry gave Joe the older Franklin so he could learn by repairing it. A second daughter, Polly, was born that year, and as his business took root, Harry bought a stump farm, 160 acres of recently logged land southwest of town. There he began to build with his own hands a large farmhouse. Sequim sat on a wide expanse of prairie between the snow-capped Olympic Mountains to the south and the broad blue strait of Juan de Fuca to the north. Vancouver Island was just visible on the horizon. Nestled in the lee of the mountains, sheltered from the storms that rotated in off the Pacific from the southwest, the area was far less rainy than most of western Washington, and the skies were blue more often than gray. The weather was so dry, in fact, that early settlers had found cacti growing in places. It was the kind of town where people got together on weekends to build a new church to hold Sunday afternoon ice cream socials, or to kick up their heels at Saturday night square dances. In Sequim, your butcher might also be the volunteer firefighter who saved your house or barn, as well as the neighbor who helped you rebuild it. It was a place where native women from the nearby Jamestown Sklallam tribe might share recipes with a Protestant minister's wife over a cup of coffee at Drike's Cafe. Where old men sat in front of the post office on Saturday afternoon, spitting brown arcs of tobacco juice into strategically arranged spittoons. Where boys could sell melons purloined from local vegetable patches to Honolulu Pete at his fruit truck parked on Seal Street. Where children could wander into Lehman's Meat Market and be given a free hot dog and a bun just because they looked hungry. Or where they might stop by Brayton Drugstore and be handed a piece of candy just because they said, please. The farmhouse that Harry set about building amid the tree stumps outside of town became a work perpetually in progress. With Joe's help, he dug a ditch to divert water, illegally, from an irrigation canal flowing out of the nearby Dungeness River. He rigged up a sawmill powered by the water he had diverted. He felled a few